However, we're always in the traffic environment. And the tricky part is that there's a very high acceptance level. And what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about something very sad. I'm talking about traffic fatalities per day, because the numbers are so large that I have to talk about it per day. And as I come from a small country way up north, Sweden is doing extremely well, because we have less than 1 fatality per day. We've got our figures down to very good ones. We won't be pleased until we're down to 0. But let's look at some other countries in the world. What about Australia? How are you doing? Well, 4 per day. And then, of course, somebody's going to say straight away, well, we're a lot more people in Australia, so, well, let's see. Let's look at some other countries. You know, we can look at Germany. They do some high-speed driving there. We can look at India, 290 people per day. That's a large aeroplane that's crashing every day. And this is where I get into the part of acceptance level. How come we aren't reading about this in the newspapers? If an airplane crashes, what do we see? Within seconds throughout the world, the big bold headlines, you know, an airplane has crashed. And in India, they've got one crashing every single day. Or 3,500 people in the world. But a little better way of looking at it here, because you say, oh, Australia's not too bad with 4. Another way of looking at the figures is to say, how many do we have per 100,000? And there you see Sweden's at 4, Australia's double up to that. India isn't that bad when you put it like that, because they're over, what, 1.2 billion people? There are a lot of people there, and these are official figures, so they might be higher, who knows? But it shows that we're heading in the correct direction. So now comes the question here, and you were going into that somewhat, Lindsay. Why do accidents happen? Who's the culprit out there? What's the problem? Well, we've got vehicle-related things, we've got road environment, we've got driver-related. And who is the problem out there? Well, 90% driver error. And is there an easy solution to this? Yes, there is. If we kept our eyes on the road, we would do away with enormous amounts of accidents, because we tend to do a lot of other things. And that's where I say, what can we as a manufacturer do? Can we just go along and say, well, tough luck, you know, we've got some lousy drivers out there and people are doing whatever they want to do? No, we need to get out there and support them and help them in the best way we can. And we've had this with us in the company, because our founders said that the basic principle behind all design work is and always must be safety. So that's been with us since the company was founded. And we've done more things there too, because we've continued along this line. And you know, most people have a vision. And the AB Volvo, the Volvo Group's vision is 0 accidents with Volvo Group products. And since I've been starting to talk about this, a lot of people have said, well, come on, Carl, that's stupid. That's impossible. You can't do it that way. And I say, you can't? Well, it's a way of thinking. Or are we going to have somebody sitting high up and saying, oh, you can get killed in an accident, but you can survive? Who's going to be doing that? And when you start thinking about this and let it dawn on yourself, this is truly the only way to go. This is the only thing we can accept. 0 accidents. It's a set of mind that we have to get out to the drivers, to people in common, to everybody. Think about this. If you start thinking about this yourselves when you go back and forth to work, I promise you, you will drive in a different way. If you make up your mind that you don't want to be part of an accident, it's going to happen. It's mindset. We can't accept this. Because nobody in this room would get onto an airplane if you knew that 10% of them were going to crash. Would you do that? I don't think anybody in this room would do that. But when we go out in traffic, oh, it's accepted, no problem. So we have been learning from accidents since 1969. We have Since '69, our accident research team, so if we have an accident in the Gothenburg vicinity, we are actually called out together with the police and the rescue teams so we can investigate and see what has actually happened. Can we do something in the product, or why did this accident occur? And it's given us a lot of knowledge. Lindsay was into this too, that we have rollovers. If you look at these figures here, you see that when it comes to cars, for instance, and we have accidents truck, car, well, it's the front part of the truck that is the sensitive part, so to say, because head-on collisions, and I heard that this morning too, head-on collisions, that's really where we have a problem, because the truck is large and the car is small, and we can see that more than 80% of accidents where a truck is involved covers the front part of the truck. It's head-on collisions and sideways and whatever. And there we've put enormous efforts into our front under-end protection systems, not only to stop the car from coming underneath the truck, but also to take up the energy, to absorb the energy when the car hits the front of the truck. This is setting standards now because this is the way of describing accidents when we talk about this. Passive safety, well, if you have a sturdy, good cab, you get your drivers to put their seatbelts on, it's a very safe place today. It's very safe. But still, we want to stop the accidents before they occur. And we have an ongoing challenge. How difficult can it be, my kids say sometimes, you know? Why don't truck drivers understand that they should be wearing their seatbelts? It's funny, isn't it? When we drive in a car, we're pretty good at this. I know Australia's very good at it, Sweden's very good. We've got figures, you know, of 98, 99% of seatbelt usage. We're doing great. But when it comes to trucks, what happens? Do we lose our mind somehow, or we stop using them? We've been trying to help the truck drivers there by putting in an audible alarm, so not only a little red blinking light, but an audible alarm that comes on to remind them. And looking at statistics in Sweden for last year, and they're looking at all fatalities when it comes to truck drivers, 95% of the truck drivers that were killed in Sweden would have survived if they'd been wearing their seatbelt. So come on, wake up, let's get our belts on. It's your own life you're talking about. And things are. Stay out of those places. The future, are we doing anything there? Well, one of the concerns with truck drivers is that if we keep our eyes on the road and do what we're supposed to be doing, we won't have any accidents. But then we come into the suburbs of a big city or something like that, there's a queue, things slow down. What do we start doing? Well, we start thinking about other things because we are under-stimulated then as drivers. We start thinking about, oh, what am I going to do over the weekend, or wonder if I got some good dinner at home this evening, or I might be looking at my freight bills or whatever, and suddenly the car in front of you stops and wham, you hit it. Well, there we're into a project within the European community where we will have an automated system. Because if we are in this situation, wouldn't it be great if we could just push a button and tell the truck, could you please follow that car or vehicle in front of you and stay in the lane here? And this project will be shown now in June. They'll have the final of it there. And they'll show that this can be done with modern technique. Inattention. Is that a problem? Well, I know that hands-free is something we talk a lot about. I think you've all got one of these in your pocket, correct? Everybody's got one of these, okay? I know that in Australia you are not allowed to sit in your car and talk like this and drive at the same time, correct? Mm-hmm. And that is really not the problem. There are actually figures in Sweden now showing that that's not really a big problem if you're on the phone or not. But there is another problem with these things. You know what that is? Dial in, and you can do text messaging. Has anybody in this room texted? And now I want honest answers here, okay? Because otherwise I'm going to be seeing a lot of liars in here. Has anybody been texting while driving? I think there'd be a very many yes. And they've been looking into this, and there is one research from the US where they've been looking at truck drivers doing 90 kilometers per hour. For a period, they looked at a period of 6 seconds when they are texting. During those 6 seconds, they are looking away from the road 4.6 seconds out of every 6 seconds. So you can try that when you go home this evening. Get out on the road, do 90 kilometers per hour, shut your eyes for 4.5 seconds and see how far you get. Because that is what you're doing when you're texting. The possibility of having an accident when texting is 23 times higher than normal. So remember this, everybody in this room. If you want to have an accident, keep on texting, because it's not a question if you're going to have an accident. It's just a question of when you're going to have an accident. So refrain from that. And the opposite way, don't send text messages to somebody that you know is out driving. Because what do we human beings do when this thing makes a noise? Whether we're driving or not, we pick it up and we're so curious, we need to see who did it come from. So be careful out there. So we're looking into this, but we're still lacking knowledge on driver behavior. Because the problem has been that we can't sit alongside the truck driver all the time and follow the truck driver and see what's going on. So just to sum up, I think, Lindsay, we are very well okay there saying that fatalities can never be accepted. Nobody should accept that. Safety investments pay off, because if you get into eco driving and things like that, you get a win-win situation, that your fuel consumption goes down and you don't have that many accidents. You can even go down to 0. The human factor is the starting point. It's a mindset. You have to have it within the entire company, that everybody is thinking the same way. And with joint efforts, we can make a difference. But I still want to keep it that the driver is always responsible, because we don't want to take that away from our professional driver.